2 ounces is not much. It is less than the smallest hen's egg weighs. But you see, the important thing in Mr. Hoppy's plan was to make sure that the new tortoise was bigger than Alfie, but only a tiny bit bigger. The difference had to be so small that Mrs. Silver wouldn't notice it. From his best correction, it was not difficult for Mr. Hoppy to find just the tortoise he wanted. He wanted one that weighed 15 ounces exactly on his kitchen scale, no more and no less. When he had got it, he put it on the kitchen table beside Alfie, and even he could hardly tell that one was bigger than the other, but it was bigger. It was bigger by 2 ounces. This was tortoise number 2. Mr. Hoppy took tortoise number 2 out onto the balcony and gripped it in the claws of his tortoise catcher, and he lowered it onto Mrs. Silver's balcony, right beside a nice fresh lettuce. Tortoise number 2 had never eaten tender, juicy lettuce leaves before. It had only had thick old cabbage leaves. It loved the lettuce and started chomping away at it with a great gusto. There followed a little nervous 2 hours later for Mrs. Silver to return from work. Would she see any difference between the new tortoise and Alfie? It was going to be a tense moment. Out onto her balcony swept Mrs. Silver. "Alfie, my darling," she cried out. "Mommy's back. Have you missed me?" Mr. Hoppy peered over his railing, but well hidden between 2 huge pot plants, held his breath. The new tortoise was sitting chomping away at the lettuce. My, Alfie, you do seem hungry today," Mrs. Silver was saying. "It must be Mr. Hoppy magic words I've been whispering to you." Mr. Hoppy watched as Mrs. Silver picked the tortoise up and stroked his shell. Then she fished Mr. Hoppy's piece of paper out of her pocket, and holding the tortoise very close to her face, she whispered, reading from the paper, "ESIO TROT, ESIO TROT, tap." Read. Ammo no, ESIO TROT. Word poo, foot poo, tooth poo, grunt poo, word poo, loo poo. Outrog, elzog, foot, plug, top no taff, ESIO TROT, tough no pat, taff, tack no, elbog, doof. Mr. Hoppy popped his head out of the fournel and called out, "Good evening, Mrs. Silver. How is Alfie today?" "Oh, he's lovely," Mrs. Silver said, looking up and beaming. "And he's developing such an appetite. I've never seen him eat like this before. It must be the magic word. You never know," Mr. Hoppy said darkly. "You never know." Mr. Hoppy waited 7 whole days before he made his next move. In the afternoon of the 7th day, when Mrs. Silver was at work, he left tortoise number 2 from the balcony below and brought it into his living room. Number 2 had weighed exactly 15 ounces. He must now find one that weighed exactly 17 ounces, 2 ounces more. From his enormous correction, he easily found a 17 ounces tortoise, and once again he made tortoise number 3 sure the shells matched in color. Then he lowered tortoise number 3 onto Mrs. Silver's balcony. As you will have guessed by now, Mr. Hopp's secret was a very simple one. If a creature grows slowly enough, I meant very, very slowly indeed, then you never notice that it was grown at all, especially if you see it every day. It's the same with children. They are actually growing taller every week, but their mothers never notice it until they grow out of their clothes. Slowly does it, Mr. Hoppy told himself. Don't hurry that. So this is how things went over the next 8 weeks. In the beginning, Alfie weighed 13 ounces, and of the first week, tortoise number 2 weighed 15 ounces, and of the second week, tortoise number 3 weighed 17 ounces, and of the third week, tortoise number 4 weighed 19 ounces, and of the fourth week, tortoise number 5 weighed 21 ounces, and of the fifth week, tortoise number 6 weighed 23 ounces, and of the sixth grade, tortoise number 7 weighed 25 ounces, and of the seventh week, tortoise number 8 weighed 27 ounces. Alpha's weight was 13 ounces. Tortoise number 8 was 27 ounces. Very slowly, over 7 weeks, Mrs. Silver's pet had more than double in size, and the good lady hadn't noticed a thing.